Good afternoon, good morning, students. It's time for another video lesson. In this one, we are going to be learning how to multiply radical expressions together. And hopefully, this comes very intuitively to you. Something that you might have already even picked up on through some of the rules that we practiced when we added and subtracted radical expressions together. It should be very straightforward, and I think you'll pick up on it really fast. So we're going to do radical expressions with a number on the outside and without a number on the outside in one lesson, because I think we can get it taken care of really easily. So let's go ahead and get started with this problem here. Okay, so we got 2 square roots of 3 times 3 square roots of 27. Now the good news about multiplying radical expressions is that you simply multiply the corresponding parts together and then simplify from there. So for example, we've got a 2 and a 3 on the outside of the radical sign. Those numbers can be multiplied together. Now you can't multiply this 2 on the outside against the 27 on the inside. You can't do that, but you can multiply the 2 and the 3 together because they're both on the outside of the radical expression. So let's go ahead and do that. That's 2 times 3 is 6. And then you can multiply the numbers that are on the inside of the radical expression together as well. So 3 times 27. Now, if you don't know that one off the top of your head, you get out a calculator and do it. I happen to know that's 81. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's 3 times 27 is the square is 81. They're both under the square root sign, so that would be the square root of 81. So you get, as an answer, 6 times the square root of 81. Now, you're not done, because this can be simplified down more, right? Something in there is definitely a perfect square. And what is that? Well, 81. 81 is a perfect square. So what can you multiply by itself to get 81? Yeah, that answer is 9. So 6 times the square root of 81 can be simplified into 6 times 9, which is 54. And that's the answer. Now, you're not always going to get perfect, pretty answers like that, but that is the answer. So let me erase this, and then I'm going to write the general rule on the board for you to go ahead and just, you should have it written down. This is the general definition of the rule for multiplying radical expressions. Okay, so here's the general rule. The general rule is a times the square root of x times, or you say a square roots of x times b square roots of y equals ab square roots of xy. Now hopefully that automatically makes sense to you. If you need me to talk you through it a little bit, here's how it goes. Basically all it's saying is if you have an expression, some number times the square root of some other number, multiplied by some different number times the square root of some different number, you multiply the numbers on the outside, and then you multiply the numbers on the inside of the radical expression, and that's the version. Now sometimes you can simplify it more, sometimes you can't. So let's do another one real fast. Switch to green. Okay, so we got 4 times the square root of 12 times 2 times the square root of 2. So pause the video, see if you can work this one out all by yourself. Alright, I'm realizing also that the green is a little bit light, so I'm going to switch colors again, back to blue, and show up a little better. But, alright, let's see if we can go and do this. So following the rules that we've already gone over, multiply the numbers on the outside. I just did 4 times 2, which is 8. Then multiply the numbers under the radical sign. So square root of 12 times the square root of 2 is equal to the square root of 24. Now once again, I don't want you stopping here and saying this is the final version. It's not, because it can now be simplified more. Using the rules that we've been using for the last couple weeks, you should be able to simplify this down further. So now we break down the square root of 24 into a pair of factors. See if there's a perfect square in there. And there is. I know that 24 is the product of 6 and 4, where 4 is a perfect square. So let's rewrite that. We got 8 times the square root of 6 times 4. Go ahead and take the square root of 4, which is 2. That comes to 2 times 8 times the square root of 6. 2 times 8 is 16. And we're left with 16 times the square root of 6. And that, for now, is the most simple version of the radical expression. So 4 times the square root of 12 times 2 times the square root of 2. When you do all the math and you simplify it down, its most simple answer is 16 times the square root of 6. Let's do one more. Okay, so this one might look really simple, and it is, but we're doing it so that you can see what happens if you see something like this, so that you automatically know what's going to happen. So, like any other version, you'd multiply the numbers on the outside. So we have 3 times the square root of 5 times 2 times the square root of 5. So 3 times 2 is 6. That's no big deal. You should be able to get that one no problem. But you have 2 of the same repeating square roots of 5. And what I want you to realize is that if you have the square root of 5 times the square root of 5, or the square root of some number times the square root of the same number, that just simplifies to the number that's under that sign, and I'm going to show you why. So I'll tell you right now, the square root of 5 times the square root of 5 is 5. Just full stop, it's 5. But I'm going to show you why, in case you don't quite get the logic that's going on here. So let's say you follow the long way and you say, okay, the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. 5 times 5 is 25. So 6 times the square root of 25. And then all of a sudden, you say, oh, 25 is a perfect square. That's the product of 5 times 5. So the square root of 25 is 5. So ultimately you get 6 times 5, which is 30. It's the same process here, just a little faster, just realizing that if you have the square root of 5 and multiply by the square root of 5, it's simply saying the square root of 5 squared. And that the square root and the squared cancel each other out, and you're left with 5. All right. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday.